It is the holiday season, you know what that means. I'm gonna be doing a review of a Christmas movie. More specifically, Christmas movies, because today, I'm gonna be talking about the greatest trilogy of all time, the Santa Claus trilogy, starring Tim Allen. Sure, these aren't really, like, the best movies ever made, but they are huge guilty pleasures for me, and, like, to be honest, what other trilogy will you really watch during Christmas time anyway? Like, you're not gonna watch the Spider-Man trilogy. So that being said, let's dive head first into the first movie, The Santa Claus, released 1994. For whatever reason, this first movie gets a bad rap, and I don't know why, because I actually really like it. I mean, sure, there's some bad stuff in this movie, but, I mean, what do you expect? Do you expect this to be an Academy Award-winning drama with gripping acting and a superior script that a streetcar named Desire would envy? No, this is a Christmas movie starring Home Improvement's Tim Allen. So, like, what do you expect? What's weird, though, is that Tim Allen isn't even supposed to be Santa Claus in this movie, because Santa Claus, he technically killed him. Because he fell off his roof, and then he just becomes Santa Claus because he puts on his coat. Because he loots the dead man that just fell off his roof. So I'm thinking, okay, so if Santa Claus just happened to fall on anyone's roof, like off of anyone's roof, you put on his coat, are you just magically Santa Claus then? Like, it doesn't make sense, but you don't question it because this isn't a movie where you have to question everything. This is a movie where reindeer fart. Yeah. But in the end, this is probably my favorite movie in the entire trilogy, followed by the second one, and then the third one, because the third one, it's not very good. But overall, this is a pretty solid flick, and I'm gonna give it a C. So the next movie is Santa Claus 2, which I remember being my favorite. I don't know why, but I remember it being my favorite. Upon rewatch, it's not very good. Let's just get into Santa Claus 2. So the basic plot of Santa Claus 2 is that if Santa Claus doesn't get married, he can't be Santa Claus anymore, which doesn't make sense, but I'll roll with it. There's also a whole subplot about replacing Santa, and they even get, like, a toy Santa to replace him, and then he makes a revolt, which was a huge surprise. And that's probably the highlight of the movie, because all the romantic stuff is extremely boring. This is when these movies started to get extremely silly and ridiculous. The first movie kind of was sort of somewhat serious at times. This movie, however, is completely ridiculous and silly and has a completely far-fetched premise, although the premise of someone becoming Santa is also pretty far-fetched. Now, one of the romance scenes at the very beginning of the movie is when Santa Claus, aka Tim Allen, is trying to go on a blind date, and it is one of the best scenes in the movie, because it is extremely awkward, and you can tell by the expressions on Tim Allen's face. It is the funniest scene because this woman is like a fan of Santa's, because she takes off her sweater and she has a Santa sweater, and then Tim is like, oh, that's a nice sweater there, I like it. And then she starts singing later, and it's just because she wants to be a singer, and it's just so funny. It's so funny. I'm just gonna show the scene. I have to.
That's very nice.
Yeah. So what kind of work do you do?
I'm in the toy business.
No way.
Way.
Oh. That sounds so creative. I love creative people. Yeah.
So what do you do?
I'm actually hoping someday to break into the music business. as a singer-songwriter.
Way. What's your favorite kind of music?
Country western.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you like Shania Twain?
Yeah.
Yeah. The best thing about singing at Christmas is the cocoa caroling and finding that
I know that song.
Whoa, go totally Yuletide, taking a sleigh ride.
Good.
Santa shirts, reindeer skirts.
Hey.
Watching the windows fog, drinking some eggnog. Fill up a stocking, spray on some flocking. Put up a tree, sports on TV. I wanna be free, yeah, to feel the way I feel. Man, I feel like some Christmas.
And then as soon as she sits down, she's like, "Did you like it?" And Tim's like, "He scared me a bit." And then the look on her face, it's the greatest thing. Because she's so disappointed. Conclusion, Santa Claus 2 is not great. It's not good either. It's just kind of, it's not bad. It's just kind of okay. So, but that scene on the blind
It's like
date
Santa Claus 2
makes
had
up
one
for
amazing
it.
scene
So
that
I'm
made
gonna
up
give
for
Santa
everything.
Claus
So
2
does Santa Claus 3. But in this scene, Martin Short is Santa Claus. And he's doing
On
the
to
song
Santa
and dance
Claus
number.
3.
And it's a parody of New York, New York by Frank Sinatra. Except it's called North Pole, North Pole. And it is a glorious thing to witness. Because you can tell that Martin Short is just having a ball right now. And it is the funniest thing to witness. Because I just have to say, this is like the best scene in the movie. Every other scene is so boring and it's just kind of like uneventful. But this is the only scene I actually kind of like. Because it's hilarious. Also, the dancers are completely unenthused. And very sad looking. Which I think might have been the point, but why would you be sad if Martin Short is Santa? I don't get that. And also, something I forgot to mention is that Santa's niece is trying to find a snow globe. That doesn't matter. What matters in this scene is that Martin Short is doing the best scene in the movie. And all the dancers hate him, including his piano player. The piano player hates him because he's singing. Because apparently, Santa's not allowed to sing, apparently. Which is messed up. Because, come on. Martin Short's great in this movie and any other movie. He gives it his all and more. So the basic premise of Santa Claus 3 is that there's a snow globe in which if Santa shakes it and says, "I don't want to be Santa anymore," he isn't Santa anymore. Which is a stupid idea, and I don't get it, because why would that snow globe exist? It makes no sense. Because if Tim Allen in this universe wants to be Santa, why would he own a snow globe that if he shook it and said, "I don't want to be Santa anymore," would make him just normal, boring Tim Allen? And then Jack Frost shows up, and, you know, Santa's having some problems in this movie, and Jack Frost shows up to, kind of make things better. Because also Santa has a baby on the way, which is something I forgot to mention, which is kind of weird if you think about it, because isn't Tim Allen like 70 or 65 at the time this movie came out, and his wife is like 30, but anyway. So Tim Allen's in-laws are coming to the North Pole, but they don't know it's the North Pole. They think it's Canada. So they have to pretend that the North Pole is Canada for like 30 minutes.
And then when Alan Arkin and I don't remember who the other person is. When Alan Arkin and his wife show up, they honestly believe that it is Canada. Which, what? That doesn't make sense. Because if this was Canada, why would there be miniature people just walking around? I don't get it. So this movie makes like no sense, but I like it a lot, so I'm gonna give it a C+.